I did have dizziness for months the year before, and it couldn't be explained by doctors or anyone. It was just this insane fatigue. I'd never felt anything like this before. I felt exhausted before, certainly after doing 12-hour nights, and you come home in the morning, but this was on a different level. Me and my dad I'd booked a holiday for me and my dad. We were going to go 3 days to Budapest, and I just said to him, this was like the day before, and I was like, no way. And this is just when COVID was just starting to. I've been brain retraining and meditating, and now for this last week is really bringing good feelings for the first time in 4 years, which is just amazing. Just the happiness of being alive. I'd put myself into adjustment period, but I was handling it well, and then that's when it twigged and I got it. And I'm sure I came onto the call and said that. I said, finally, I've got it, man. I said, I couldn't understand why Junior would deliberately force himself to go to a cinema when he was feeling terrible. And says, well, let's push it. Let's push the envelope.
How's it going, guys? Miguel here from CFS Recovery. In this video, we have Alan. Alan, you've been crushing it, man. We've been working together for quite a while. You've been in the program for just over a year and a bit. And yeah, you have made tons and tons of progress. But Alan, you want to quickly introduce yourself to these folks?
Hi, my name's Alan Kelly. I'm from Edinburgh in Scotland. I'm 53.
Excellent. And how long were you dealing with your CFS symptoms before you found us?
It's just short of 4 years now. I've had long COVID.
Got it, long COVID. Just like a lot of people get long COVID, and then it seems like it just changes their life forever. At least that's what it feels like. So I wanted to bring you on here because when we first came across you, or you first came across us, you were in bed most of the day, not too functional, not going out much. And now you're doing a lot more. So maybe just take us back in time so people can learn about your story. How did you first get sick? I know you got long COVID, or you got COVID, but what was life like leading up to that?
I did have dizziness for months the year before, and it couldn't be explained by doctors or anyone. But I have the feeling perhaps it was starting then. Who knows? Because I was living a stressful life. I was working 12-hour nights in a nursing home, caring for people who unfortunately will give you abuse and try and hit you sometimes, and you have to just take it, And then in the backdrop, my mother died 4 years ago, and no, but it'll be 5 now. And then me and my ex-girlfriend had split up on the back of that as well. So it was a stressful time. And I think I was ripe for this coming. But I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad it actually happened.
Really? Yeah. Well, we'll dive deeper into that for sure. And most people only have that realization once they're past, once they're out of the trenches and they're making lots of progress. You're able to look back and kind of self-analyze and be grateful for the things that did happen. But, you were dealing with a lot of life stressors, a lot of things going on, and then you got COVID. So what was that like when it first hit you? Did you get all of your symptoms at once, or was it a slow onset? How did that look?
It was just this insane fatigue. I'd never felt anything like this before. I felt exhausted before, certainly after doing 12-hour nights. And you come home in the morning, but this was on a different level. Me and my dad I'd booked a holiday for me and my dad. We were going to go 3 days to Budapest. And I just said to him, this was like the day before. And I was like, no way. And this is just when COVID was just starting to appear in the news. And then they began shutting down everything. So I thought, I'll cancel it. And so a week went by, and I was just incredibly ill. And it just seemed to be getting worse. And I got my dad to take me up to the hospital, and they gave me a whole bunch of tests because I had this feeling of doom. I thought, this is it. This is my number up. And I was like, what a way to go. So they did all the tests, but not with COVID. They weren't testing back then. It was too early. You only got tested if you were admitted. So they said to me, we think you've got COVID. Can't totally be sure. All you can do is go home and just rest. And I was like, wow, I feel like I'm dying here.
Yeah. What symptoms were you feeling? So like lots of fatigue, you felt impending doom, so a lot of anxiety. What else was going on?
Just absolutely, I've never felt so ill in my life. So just incredibly ill. I could barely function. I could barely move, just even to get to the toilet. I couldn't hold a thought in my head. I had about 35 symptoms. Felt like my whole body was on fire and with pain. And this lasted for a bit, and I had fever, chills, and that lasted for about 6 weeks.
Oh wow. So it hit you pretty hard right off the bat.
Yeah, I went up twice to accident emergency after that, convinced. And then that's when they started laying up a whole bunch of tests. But then suddenly it lifted. And I was like, wow, brilliant. So I felt this pressure to get back to work. And also from my family. And they were just saying, well, just rest and hopefully you'll be back to it just like you were last week. But what happened was it just began a cycle of pushing and crashing. I would rest all day and then try and go for a 10-minute walk to freshen myself up. And then boom, that could not be back for 2 weeks or a month.
Wow.
Especially in the beginning.
Yeah. And at this point, what was your activity level? Just in bed most of the day? Just kind of surviving?
Well, in between, I was actually walking on the golf course with my dad when it was in lockdown, walking 30 minutes to an hour a day. And then began the crashing. And then it got so bad, I just could not do anything. And I ended up pretty much bedbound for the next 16 months.
Wow.
And I could not even sit on my backside for 5 minutes and sit up and speak to someone because it was so much effort and I felt so ill. I had to get a double air mattress and lie on my side, left and right. I could not lie on my bottom because it was like a piriformis type syndrome pain.
Yeah.
Just felt like my backside was on fire. It took about 18 months for that to finally settle down.
Wow. A year and a half. Every day you're just in bed. So at that time, I mean, what was going through your mind? Because at that point you had seen doctors, asked the questions, you've probably seen some specialists, and did they just keep saying go home and rest and this will go away on its own?
Yeah, they organised a whole bunch of tests. I had 4 EEGs in total, ECGs, an echocardiogram. There was 2 hours at hospital with a cardiologist who ran me through a bunch of tests and told me to basically get up and start doing things. I'm like,
classic
if I had the
advice.
energy, I would have slapped him.
I've had that thought too. But you don't even have energy to get mad, right? You just kind of sit there and bottle it up. Wow. That's
I had to
crazy.
stop myself from getting angry, basically, and change the subject. Because he was like, "Oh, if I put a footballer in his bed for 3 weeks, he wouldn't be doing well." I says, "But he's not got long COVID."
Yeah, that's frustrating. Super frustrating.
And then I just could not figure out what the hell's going on. And then I was on the Facebook forums. Looking back, they weren't a source of calm or reassurance. It was just a trigger fest of
Mm-hmm.
scared people, quite rarely, just like myself, wondering what the hell's going on. And
Mm-hmm.
they were scared witless whether this would be chronic fatigue syndrome. This would be the new one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Those Facebook groups, it's interesting because I think people created those because they did want to help and find answers. But when you get a bunch of people going through this kind of stuff, just suffering and trying to formulate an answer on their own, there's a lot of panic in there. It's like a frenzy of who has tried this medication, who has tried this, I'm trying this, or do you guys feel like giving up too? Because I feel like giving up. And it gets pretty dark. So, for people watching this right now, maybe they can take something away from something you experienced during that time. Like maybe what's some advice you can give to people who are in your shoes where you were when you were bedridden? Because you were bedridden for 18 months. What would you say to people who are bedridden right now and they're thinking, I'm never going to get out of this?
Well, if you Google, you see that with chronic fatigue syndrome, they say what only 5% recover within what a 2 or 4 year period, and I'm like, no way, it's nonsense. There is a way out of this, and this program will help you do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's this whole 5% thing, recovery rate. Like, I don't believe any of it. And, yeah, I think it's completely inaccurate and actually irresponsible to be saying that to people, because it's just going to make people feel worse and reduce their chance of recovering within a certain time. So you're bedridden for 18 months, and then you get a little bit better after that. So what kind of moved the needle for you, making a little bit of progress after that 18 months?
Well, I joined CFS Health firstly. I was in it for 9 months, but to be honest, I wasn't getting the support I wanted there because they don't do one-on-one support. You can only
Mm-hmm.
ask a coach a question once a week on a forum, or if you're lucky, in a group meeting. And if you didn't get the answer you wanted, then tough, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided I wasn't getting what I wanted, and then I looked up on YouTube, and I saw your channel, and I saw your videos. I think it was the one on heart palpitations or something, and I was like, this guy knows exactly how I feel and is expressing it in words. You were so down to earth, and I was like, wow, this guy, he really gets it. He really gets it, what I'm going through. And I began soaking up a lot of your videos, and that's when I decided to give the program a go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I remember you came on board, it was June 2022. So it was last summer. Right now it's mid-November 2023. But what was the deciding factor that made you go, okay, like this makes sense, let me give this a shot? Was it because you just related so much to the content and you were like, yeah, that makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, um, everyone who's watched your channel knows your story in it by now, but it's an incredible story, and you've been better, and then you've been worse, and then you've been better and worse until it finally clicked for you, and it gave me massive hope that it can be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I remember you came on board and our first few calls, well, our first handful of calls in the first few months, you're struggling. You were in bed most of the day. And I remember one of our first action items for you was I think it was like to take pictures of birds outside because you got a camera or something. I think that was part of your initial plan, if you remember that. It was literally just not even going outside, but standing by your window, taking a picture of birds. And even that was a bit of a stretch for you. But um,
I couldn't do that. I remember exactly when I joined you, and I was on the calls, and
yeah.
I could barely speak. I was white as a sheet. I was that pasty white that CFS
Yeah.
people get, and I felt so ill, and I barely had the energy to talk.
I remember that.
Um, I was really just surviving through the days.
Hmm.
But your program and the coaching in the first 6 weeks was brilliant, and it really, really gave me a lift.
Hmm. And so, what were some of the mind shifts you had? Like, what were some of the biggest takeaways in the first, few months in the program that really helped shift things for you and helped you get unstuck?
Well, the first thing was your explanation of it just made total sense, that the body's gone into stress overdrive and it's given up at this point through a combination of factors, and it's up to us to react well to the symptoms and slowly start to build our life back. Mm-hmm. And the whole explanation made sense, which calmed a lot of my fear down. And then asked every question that I had that I never had answered in the previous program. It was great just being able to ask my questions and then get a really good answer, and then that just makes me even more, mm-hmm. reassures me more. Mm-hmm. And then putting the stuff into practice, and then that's the practical work, the swatting away the thoughts, not entertaining negativity, anything like that. It was just great. Really spoke to me, that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and implementation is the biggest thing. Like, you can learn all of these different things, but it doesn't matter if we're not implementing it. So some things we put in place, for people just like you, are regular small group weekly coaching calls, especially in the beginning, but also having access to the coaches, like being able to text us anytime. So how much of a difference did that make versus if you were to try and do this all on your own and you were just provided the information?
Oh, I would have found this a massive struggle doing this by yourself. It's really hard. You really need community, and that's another great thing, is the Discord Thriver community. It's really built into something really big and really good, and everyone supports each other. And having a coach you can just message at any time is just invaluable, because there's lots of times where you'll be struggling and you just need a bit of reassurance, and sometimes that's all you need to just keep going for that day and start mm-hmm. fresh the next day.
Yeah. And sometimes there's some specific questions you have, like, hey, my friend's coming over this weekend. Do you think it's okay for him to stay 2 hours, or can they stay for like 5 hours? Like, that's stuff you wouldn't really be able to formulate an answer on by yourself. Sometimes it takes an outside perspective to help you determine that, right? So in terms of your progress, what was your first biggest win where it kind of clicked and you were like, wow, this is actually working, and it gave you that spark? What was one of your early wins that you remember?
Well, I started to I do my best just to get downstairs, get a bit of fresh air.
I remember that.
I was in a first floor flat, and most of the time I couldn't even get downstairs. One day, I think I was concentrating a lot on the mindset stuff, and I put myself into adjustment period, but I was handling it well. I was smiling despite feeling like absolute hell. Mm-hmm. And then that's when it twigged and I got it. And I'm sure I came onto the call and said that. I said, finally, I've got it, man. I said, I couldn't understand why Junior would deliberately force himself to go to a cinema when he was feeling terrible. And says, well, let's push it. Let's push the envelope. And I says, now I get what he was thinking and talking about.
Yeah, I do remember that, because there was a period of time where you would go into adjustment periods, but then it's like you'd hit the ceiling of recovery. So like you go into adjustment period, then you'd go back to doing the regular activity, but it wouldn't really go to the next level. But I remember one of the calls, it just clicked, and that light bulb moment went off finally. And then that's when you really started making lots of progress. So that was a great early mind shift for you. But what's another big win where, you just took things to a whole nother level? What's a memorable thing for you? I think I do remember something. It comes to mind. I think you changed a tire at some point. Your car broke down and you had to do something super physical. But what's something that comes up for you?
Well, I ordered some mobile tire fitters to come and change my tire for me, because there was no way I could drive or get anywhere near a station. So they came out to me, and I had to stay outside for 40 minutes, and I was more, the symptoms were more or less at the same level. So I mean, just that being outside for that long was just like a big thing for me, and I was fine.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's one of those great stories where you're able to, I mean, you do way more than you're used to, and then you don't flare up, and then it kind of unlocks something in your mind where you're like, holy cow, my body's actually capable of doing that.
Well, the biggest thing for me was moving house. I was in a damp, cold, drafty flat, um, and it was weighing on my mind whether this was making me ill. And my friend offered me a room, and I was like, yes, I'm going to take it. And this was a catalyst for a big change for me. And I basically had to get myself together, even though I was pretty much still bedbound because I'd been in 2 long adjustment periods, one of them caused by dental issues. But what I did was I split the task up and packed a box or got rid of a box every day for 6 weeks.
Wow.
And it got done. It got done. And there was so much other things I had to do as well. And some days I couldn't do a thing and I just left it.
Mm-hmm.
But looking back, it's quite incredible what I did. And on the day, I did a massive amount of steps when it came to the move, and even drove the car for a bit. And
Wow.
it was only the next day it hit me, but I was like, fine, it's fine. It's like it gave me such a boost knowing that I can do all this, you know. And it didn't put me in a crash for months.
Yeah. Yeah. There must have been
And
such
that
a
gave me a big boost knowing that I could, I can do it. And it's just gone further on from there now.
Mm-hmm. So that was like the catalyst for your kind of hockey stick moment, right? It kind of broke you out of that maybe a bit of plateau or just like the slow progress. Now it's like you're just building upon that experience, because that's the interesting thing about making progress. Once you have that pretty big win, that kind of proof of concept for your brain remembers that, and it's like, wait, we need to do that again and again and again, and then you just build momentum that way. So for you, would you say that was kind of the catalyst to really get the momentum going?
Definitely, that was my big moment, I think, because, I was scared. I was thinking, all this activity I have to do. And I was like, I'm up to it. I'm up to it. Well, but I just kept doing it. And before, I might have got really stressed and then thinking, oh, this is all too much. But I'm like, no, we'll just chunk it down. That's what you told us. Chunk down the task so it becomes easier. And when you think about it, 1 box a day doesn't sound too bad, does it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because even just thinking about packing 10 boxes at once, even just thinking about it would probably give you some symptoms. But
Yeah,
when you break it down to like very doable sizes, it makes it so much easier. So for you, what are some things you can do now that you couldn't do, even 6 months ago or a year ago? Because most of your progress has come, would you say it's come in the last 6 months?
I would say so. I think this would have happened sooner if I hadn't had those dental issues
True.
because I was starting to feel better then.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just November. It's, I've been brain retraining and meditating, and now for this last week is really bringing good feelings for the first time in 4 years, which
Mm.
is just amazing. Just the happiness of being alive.
The gratitude, the sense of calmness, feeling alive. First time you felt that in 4 years, you said?
Yeah, yeah. And the sense of desperation is gone to get better,
Mm-hmm.
because that was a strong one. Every day you're like, oh, I need to get better. Wish I wasn't feeling this way. I'm going for lunch like regularly. I've been out 8 times in the past. My dad's taken me for lunch 8 times. It's been some rocky wins, but I'm like, I'll just say to my nervous system, it's just a nervous system. I'm okay.
Nice,
And
nice.
I've really enjoyed my lunch out and then time with my dad. We even walked around a store yesterday after
Mm,
lunch and helped each other get some food. And I really enjoyed it. The most I have yet.
wow. Quality
I'm
time with
sleeping. I'm sleeping better, really deeply now as well for the first time. It's what seems like forever.
hmm
I don't have any time limit or pressure on myself. I'm feeling more gratitude. I've even assembled some IKEA furniture, which seemed like a mission at first, but
Yeah.
I'm getting fresh air. Sometimes I can't walk so much, just a few minutes, but I'll just stand and get the sun on my face. It's enough, and just watch the birds and the world go by, which is nice. Recently, I've been playing computer games, just gentle ones, but with no ill effects, really,
hmm
which is great because I'm really getting into them. Some of them, chatting more. Now that I think about it, I spoke to my cousin today for 90 minutes on the phone, and I'd set myself a 20-minute time limit because I knew I had your call late. But I've managed that and your call today, which is capacity's gone way up for this. I've
hmm
started reading books just a few pages at a time, maybe 5 pages a day or something. I'm getting more involved in the community, consistently doing my brain retraining, responding better to symptoms, and supporting others where I can.
And a lot of wins, and I'm sure there's more too. And it's a different, definitely a different Alan than I knew a year ago. And just to paint a picture again, just so people know how far you've come, exactly 12 months ago, let's say last November, what was your capacity level and what was a typical day for you? Could you even leave the house much? What did that look like?
Um, my worst days, no, I couldn't leave the house. I would say 15 to 20%, if you're lucky. Um, Being unable to speak and just that was another thing. All I could do is just lie down in bed, have the telly on the background
hmm
for something to watch, and that was it. And then just resting in between meal times.
Yeah. Just
And if I
surviving.
was lucky, I might feel a bit better in the evening, and then I might listen to some music for 10 minutes or something, or have a bath once a week or something.
Wow.
Um, at my worst. But now I'm listening to music for hours in the afternoon just for the pure pleasure of it.
You're actually able to enjoy it too, right? It's not giving you symptoms and things like that.
Yeah,
That's
except
awesome.
if I listen to rock music.
Yeah, if you listen to some
It
heavy
gets
metal
you
stuff,
fired up.
yeah, the adrenaline, you'll get the adrenaline going. So,
But sometimes I get that high as well, which is great. Another feeling I haven't felt in a long time.
yeah, that's amazing, man. That's amazing. So, I mean, you've been putting in the work and you've been showing up to the calls and, you know, pretty much following the plan. And I want to ask you, how helpful was it or how impactful was it being on calls with real people who are also going through what you're going through? Did that help being able to talk to people about it and be in that community?
Yeah, attended so many of these long COVID summits with doctors and
Oh, I've been to them too. Yeah.
specialists, and they don't have a clue. They're like, take magnesium, you'll be fine. Next, it's like, no, you've got no clue what's going on. And yeah, this is I love going on in the calls because it doesn't. I, I don't have to have a question burning in my pocket. Um, Somebody will ask something that's relevant to me, and that's enough, and I'll get something out of that. There's so much gold on all of these calls, and
hmm
coaches have been brilliant, including yourself, with the
hmm
answers. It really helps,
Oh yeah.
and it doesn't matter what stage you're at. You always get something relevant to you there.
hmm
And the
Exactly.
community, it makes you feel part of something and not so alone, because this whole condition be so I felt so isolated before this.
Hmm. It's super isolating, and with this, it kind of feels like a second family. People you can relate to, you can talk to about this, who won't look at you like you're crazy, who actually understand what you're feeling and going
Hmm.
through. So it's one of the huge aspects about everything we've created here is to create an environment of actually healing and getting better, and a very solution focused environment. So is there any other golden nuggets you have, or something you want to tell to people who were in your shoes where you were maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, and they're struggling and they're starting to get hopeless because you've been in the trenches and you're out of the trenches now, you're well on your way. What would you tell these
Hmm.
people?
Um, Sign up, sign up. You'll get out of this. There is a way out of this, and you've shown it. I've seen incredible progress from other people in the group. Some
Hmm.
people have had it more than 20 years, and suddenly they're just getting out and starting to live their lives again. It's amazing.
Hmm.
But of course, it's not just the brain retraining that you teach us or the calls, because you pick up so much more other stuff that you really need to change as a human being, because we've been doing it all wrong. More than likely, before we got this, we were heading for this. I mean, like, I've written down the way I relate to myself, the way I relate to my symptoms, learning to love myself and my body, be my own best friend, be grateful, see the symptoms as okay, support and encourage myself, do the breath work, compassion meditations, positive journaling, and introducing joy back into my life. It's never just one thing,
It's a host of
but
things.
I think this is the big lesson for us all, that we need to do things differently and treat ourselves better than we were before. I really wished I'd known all this years ago.
Hmm. Well, now you know it. And sometimes life teaches you lessons in ways that you can't ignore. And the only way out of this was to learn these things. And some people take 20 years to learn that because they just never come across this information. Some people take a couple years. Luckily, you found us after a few years. And more importantly, you implemented the things you're learning. And it wasn't easy. It was a battle some weeks and months, but it taught you more about yourself than anything will, right? And it forced you to change your thinking habits and who you are as a person for the better. So
Hmm.
it's the ultimate personal development journey, I think.
And you learn all this going through the program, and you pick it up on the way. Because I remember one time you said you need to manufacture good feelings, and that
Hmm.
really stuck with me. So that's when I went out and said, I wrote down, right, what can I do to make this happen? And a really positive focus brain retraining program. I'm doing journaling, positive journaling, gratitude journaling throughout the day, positive affirmations. All this, it's really starting to bear fruit now.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. It's difficult in the beginning because you're doing all this work and maybe not seeing immediate results, but eventually it compounds. And all those seeds you planted months ago, all the work you've been putting in, it's finally breaking through the ground and starting to show. So for people who are in your shoes and they're on the fence and they're like, I want to get extra help, but I've tried so many other things that haven't worked. I don't think this is going to be the right fit. What would you say to them if someone's on the fence of giving this program a try?
Uh, this you really need to get your mindset sorted first before you do anything. And
Yeah.
this program will help you get there, and probably much sooner than you think, because things start to turn around for me quite quickly. I think it would have been happened even sooner if I hadn't had a couple of setbacks, but that's just life.
Hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, definitely give this program a go. Amazing coaches, amazing support from yourself, and all. So grateful. And you just learn so much nuggets from people that have actually recovered. You're not talking to professionals that have never experienced this. It's so encouraging to see people week in, week out just getting better and better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It makes such a huge difference, especially with the coaches we have. They didn't have this 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Like they had it 1 to 2 years ago, and now they have their lives back. So it's like they're just a few steps ahead of you, but it shows you what's possible with neuroplasticity and what your body's capable of, which is the super cool part. So yeah, Alan, your story is inspiring, and you're well on your way to recovery. You've made so much progress up to this point. I mean, bedridden for 18 months, just lying in bed all day, staring at the ceiling a lot of the time, to now going out with your dad and playing computer games. It's a different life, and it only gets better from here, which is the exciting part.
Yeah, and I have this belief, almost knowing that it is just going to get better and better,
Mm.
And I'm in no rush to cause an adjustment period right now. You said in one of your calls, you don't have to be trying to push the envelope all the time. So I'm just enjoying my baseline where I am at the moment.
Yeah, and you have that excitement for life back. And I remember there was a time when there was. I think everybody goes through that phase of almost feeling depressed, or like you can't even feel emotions. You're just numb. But now you're having that excitement back.
Well, yeah, I would say I've been clinically depressed since this thing started. It might have been before that, actually. But yeah, most of the time I thought, is this it? There's no way out. I felt like I was in a complete black hole. And I'm sure you saw me at times at my worst, where I thought, am I ever going to get out of this? It's, depressed, suicidal thoughts all day, 24/7. It was just bed bound. It was just a miserable experience.
Mm-hmm.
And now, it's I can feel it starting to lift because
Yeah,
I'm making those good feelings happen.
yeah. You're manufacturing them. You're taking back control. Manufacturing those good feelings.
And learning this empowering mindset to move
Yeah,
out of freeze to I can do it. You can
yeah,
do it.
absolutely. And just continuing off of what you're saying there, what's something you want to leave these people with, these people watching? I know you've dropped a lot of golden nuggets. You've given a lot of great advice and shared a lot of the things that helped you. But what would you say the biggest thing you want to let people know about recovery is? If they're to take one thing away from this, what's some words of inspiration you want to give them as we close this off?
You need to change as a person, and you need to become selfish in a good way. I'm sure a lot of us could get better just by being more compassionate with ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I remember being, I make music and produce music, so I'm ultra critical of myself. And in other ways, I didn't have the tools back then, but now I do. And you learn them all through the program
Yeah.
in all the right ways. And it's a process because when we all started joining the program, we're all scared and desperate, and I'm sure you saw that in us. By the end of the 6 weeks, different people were coming onto the call 6 weeks
Oh
later.
yeah. Yeah. Especially that first call, everybody's kind of unsure. They're like, what did I join? Oh no. Hopefully this works. Fingers crossed. And there's a lot of anxiety on the first couple calls, but then within a few weeks, you become really good friends with these people. And, like I think you guys were even doing your own calls outside of the scheduled calls, right? You were doing these,
Yeah, just to catch up.
yeah,
Me and Tammy, Bertito, and Anna. It was just, but we became a close group, and that's worth more than any sort of money. I made some friends throughout being in the program that are going to be lifelong, I think. And hopefully we're all going to be meeting up later next year.
yeah, absolutely. At the Thriver retreat. That's going to be super exciting. So, it's been a great chat here, and I really wanted to just bring you on here because you went from bedridden for 18 months. That's longer than I was bedridden for. So I know how much of a struggle that is. Like 1 month feels like 6 months. So a year and a half probably felt like a decade for you just in that bed, not
Well,
showering for weeks.
to be honest, the best part of the 2.5 years, just
Yeah.
before I joined your program. But once I joined your program, that's when I started to get traction.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then we kept chipping away, and then hockey stick moment. And you're in that hockey stick moment right now, which is cool to see. You're building momentum, and you're way, way, way more active than you were just a year ago. Like not even comparable. So you just keep on going, and we'll do another one of these videos when you're even better, and you're out there truly, truly thriving all the way. And it's just super exciting to see your development. So appreciate you coming on here. Is there anything else you want to share with these folks, or you feel like you've shared pretty much everything?
I think I've gone through it, most of it.
Yeah, I think you did.
So I'd say thanks very much, Miguel, for having me in the program and all the coaches. It's been a
Yeah,
privilege, and forward to just getting better alongside everyone's help.
yeah. Awesome, man. It's been a pleasure having you, and we're excited to see you keep growing, and excited to see you get all the way there. So hope you guys enjoy this video with Alan here. Long COVID case, but there were a few other stressors brewing up before that, just like pretty much every long COVID case. And Alan is someone who was deep in the trenches for a long time, and he's finally made it out of the trenches, making massive progress. He's got that spark for life back. He's got the eye of the tiger back, and feeling the excitement for life, which is something that was missing for quite a long time. Even times when you thought you'd never get better. So it's really exciting to share you kind of starting this new chapter in your life. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Hope it gave you some inspiration. Comment down below your biggest takeaway from this, the biggest thing you learned or something that really clicked with you. Comment it down below, and always remember that you are a thriver, and no matter where you're at, no matter how debilitated you are, no matter what symptoms you have, you are just one mind shift away from living a life with thriving health. So thank you so much, Alan, and we'll see all of you guys in the next video. Thanks, Alan.
You can do it, guys. Keep going. You got this.
You got this.